Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. You got a great presentation coming up. You're all here for that presentation, so all I'm going to say is give a round of applause to Barry and let him get on with it.
Thanks,
One
Ant.
second. I said a round of applause. Like.
Thanks, Ant. So yeah, thank you everyone for coming here. I know it's the last day of JNUC, and it's been a good few days, a long few days. I don't know about you, but I've certainly been to a bunch of presentations and come away with a lot of extra work to do when I get back home. A little bit about myself. So I'm in the EdTech space. I've been there for about 15 years. I'm surrounded by teachers. So apologies if I slip in any sort of, pedagogical terms or drop into that sort of space. My whole family are teachers, and I've been surrounded by that my entire life. I work for a company called Wand. I've been there for about 2 years. In the past, before Wand, I was a developer, but now I'm in the product space. And yes, you can hear from my accent that I'm not from around these parts. G'day, I'm from Australia. From a little town confusingly called Denmark. I'm not sure why they decided to name it that. But yeah, it's been a bit of a trek to get here, about 11,000 miles, I think I calculated it out to be. But it's really great to actually be here and to be able to talk to you a little bit about Wand and Jamf together. So, in this presentation, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what Wand is, who we are, what we do. Then I'm going to talk about one of our products called EduSync and how it works alongside ASM, Apple School Manager, and Jamf, and then how EduSync and Jamf together can really bring some great opportunities for you as schools and school administrators to save time. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about where we're headed in this ongoing journey with Wand and Jamf. So, what is Wand? Well, we're a data integration platform, or a data broker, you might say. The whole purpose of Wand is to eliminate the manual data export, import, and transfer that a lot of teachers, a lot of administrators are doing at schools regularly. So what we do is that we connect your SIS, something like PowerSchool or Synergetic or TAS, to the apps that are used in the classroom by the teachers, by the students, and by the parents. Basically, the analogy I like to use is that we're like the plumbing in your house. We're sitting there quietly behind the scenes. When you turn the tap, the water comes out. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. It just works. We do a little bit more as well. We also have a product called MyLogin, which is SSO, and so single sign-on and IDP, identity management for students, which includes the ability for students to log in using something like a QR code directly into their device, or an emoji password. It's really simple, it's scalable, it's designed to work all the way from K to 12. One of our other companies in the Wand portfolio is Secure Schools, which is tailor-made cybersecurity tools and training for schools. I'll talk a little bit more about EduSync as we go on through the presentation. So Wand is headquartered in the United Kingdom. We're in a town called Newmarket, been around for about 10 years now, and we have offices also in Australia and in South Africa. A lot of our focus over the past couple of years has been on the APAC and EMEA regions, but we are now looking more broadly as well. As you can see from the map there, we do have schools all over the world, about 30,000 schools, including a few here in the States. So, you kind of now hopefully understand a little bit about what Wand is, but how does it actually work? Well, at the core of it, what we do is that we establish a secure connection to your student information system. We normally try and do this through an API, but we know that not all SISs are actually quite at that level yet. So we can handle on-prem situations. In worst case scenarios, we can handle SQL connections directly. In worst case scenarios, we can work with CSVs as well. But we then take on the work, our developers take on the work to consume that data, to interpret that data, and to standardize it so that all of the apps downstream don't have to worry about which SIS they're actually connecting to. They don't have to think about it, they do that work once. So we have a rich, RESTful API, it's very open, it's modern, it's comfortable. As a developer, I actually quite like working with it myself. But the key thing here is that it's the school, it's you at the school, who remains in control of what data goes where and to whom. So apps only get what they need, and what the schools choose to give them. There's fine-grained vertical filtering, so you can, for example, say, I don't want to give this particular app student birth dates at all. But we also have horizontal filtering, so you can say, I don't want to give this app anything for students above year 3. I only want to give it to the K to 3, so that this means you don't have to worry about all of the students' data going through to apps that don't actually need that data. So it's really all about efficiency and accuracy. And I don't know about you, but I have seen many desktops normally filled with files that look like this. And then you have to try and work out which of these files is the one that I actually need to use. And, oh, it's on a thumb drive that gets dropped in the car park, and you're struggling, basically. There's a lot of information there. So there's so much time, we've seen this firsthand, where teachers are spending on wasted administration. They're wrangling spreadsheets, they're dealing with CSVs, they're trying to export data, they're trying to update it, they're dealing with this app being slightly out of sync with that app over there. It's a huge amount of work for teachers and for administrators at schools. And obviously, it's a pretty big security risk as well. We have people emailing CSVs around unsecured. We have people putting them on thumb drives, leaving them in the car park. Files go missing, and oh, they're left lying around. Oh no, now you've got a data breach. Or you're giving an app more data than it actually needs, potentially another data breach. So because of that, what we do is we understand that the data that we have is incredibly sensitive, incredibly precious. So yes, we undertake all of the standard certifications and essentials, things like Cyber Essentials, the ISO 27001, and an Australian standard called Safer Technology for Schools, and various other international standards as well. We also do monthly independent penetration tests and code audits, and we make sure that we are fully GDPR compliant with tools for per-student data analysis. And importantly, we also make sure that the data stays in a geographic region. So for schools in the US, the data remains in the US. It doesn't get processed in European data centers, it doesn't get processed in Australian data centers. It's free for schools, which is always nice. So the way that we charge for this is that we actually charge the apps to do the work. So we go to the apps and we explain to them that basically it's a lot cheaper to do one integration rather than doing 5 integrations or 6 integrations. That means that they can focus on the meaningful work that they're trying to achieve rather than spending their time doing integration work. This is something I have personal experience with at a previous company that I was at. We spent so much time working out how to integrate with this SIS over here and then another SIS over here, rather than actually working on helping teachers and students and parents. So I'll give a quick demo then of what this looks like. I'll show you the schools interface. So what we can see here is I've got the apps that are pending approval for the school. So these are apps who've said, hey, we think we're working with the school, or the school has requested them, and the school can now go in and look through that app. They can review all of the information about it, find out a little bit more, read through the information, understand what it actually is as the school admin staff. They can go through and look at what data it's actually going to pull, which data is required for that app, and which data is optional. They can mark that data which is optional as not going through. And then also, finally, once that's all done, go through and approve that app and connect it through. And that's all. There's no manual moving around of data files. Once that's approved, teachers and students and parents can start using that app straight away with all of their classes populated, with all of their student data populated. We also have what we call the app directory. It's basically an app store. You can look through that as the school, find something that's interesting to you, and then immediately integrate it in and understand what that app does. So if I'm looking for a library system, for example, I can just search library, have a bit of a read through, find one that looks interesting, look at Oliver, for example, open that up. I can go through, look at that listing for the app, and also look at any of the documents around that. So that includes things like their privacy policy, their security, all of the stuff that you need to have to be able to make an informed decision about whether or not to use this app as a school. Okay, so that's a little bit about what Wand does. It's a lot of background, effectively. So now I want to talk a little bit more about EduSync and Apple School Manager. So EduSync is our specialized tool for integration with ASM, Apple School Manager, Entra ID, and Google as well. I'm going to focus mainly on the Apple side of things in this context, particularly from a Jamf perspective. We've really seen with ASM a huge growth in the APAC region. So we've been working very closely with the Jamf team there to look at how EduSync and Jamf can work together to really empower schools and to save them a lot of time. So a lot of schools still populating ASM with CSVs, maybe doing FTPs manually, maybe having to export them from the SIS, push them through. It's a lot of work. It's prone to failure, it's prone to breakage. And the other thing is that when it goes wrong and something isn't populated in ASM because someone forgot to hit the button or forgot to upload it that morning, it interrupts the flow in classrooms and disrupts learning. So Wand EduSync is our set and forget, never think about it again solution for it. So what we do is that we integrate the data from Wand and we pull that together, we populate it correctly into those CSVs and we push them up to ASM for you. We do have flexible config in there so that you can make that work appropriately for you. For example, you might have email address patterns that you want to compose there. You might want to control how those fields are generated. You might want to filter it to specific groups. So for example, you might not actually want your year 11s and 12s to be populated in ASM, for example. You'll also set up your classes there, and then we can go through, we set all of that up inside ASM for you and can make those managed Apple IDs as well in that context. The idea really here with EduSync is that it's invisible infrastructure. It's something that you set up, you leave it alone, and you never have to think about it again because it's just quietly in the background doing its job so that you don't have to think about it. So how that works then is that we do actually work with individual schools, I should say, as well as with larger jurisdictions. So for example, we've just finished rolling out EduSync Apple to the South Australian Department of Education in Australia. And that's been rolled out to around 500 schools in a single Apple tenant. Before they rolled out EduSync, they were manually fetching the data from each of those schools and then populating CSVs by hand in Excel spreadsheets to upload those through. The way that they're set up, they have an individual SIS for each school, but a single Apple tenant. It was a nightmare for them. So we stepped in there with EduSync and helped to make that process completely streamlined and smooth. So that's great, wonderful. I've spoken about all of these things, but this is the Jamf Nation User Conference, and I haven't really said the word Jamf very much. So how does that work alongside Jamf? How can EduSync and Jamf together bring you some time savings? Well, the way that we see it and the way that we've been working with the Jamf crew is that Jamf really works beautifully on that device management and provisioning. You all know this already. You understand what Jamf does and how it works. So what we're looking at then is that with Jamf, we've got all of those devices and the apps on those devices managed and controlled. With Wand, we've got all of the data provisioning and the synchronization sorted out and working alongside them. So those devices are fully managed, controlled, and ready to go, and those apps are fully populated for teachers and students without having to think about it. All of the classes are there, all of the student accounts are there, everything is ready. No one has to think about it. It's pretty much a way to save all of the time around device management and app management. So we know that schools need that control, they need that accuracy, they need that predictability as well in classroom management. We want to move away from schools taking all of that time to manually populate things and give more time to teaching and to learning. So I'm not going to suggest that Wand and Jamf together are going to take you to a magical IT fairyland, but I think it's pretty close, to be honest. Every device then is known and is secure. The teachers can focus on teaching, the students can focus on learning, and no one has to think about it. The beauty of Jamf and Wand together is that from a teacher's perspective, from a student's perspective, from a parent's perspective, everything just works. They don't have to worry about it, they don't have to deal with accounts, they don't have to deal with password resets and all of this nonsense. They can just focus on what's actually important. So there's been a lot of work happening in the APAC region. We've been partnering with a group called Think3, and Think3 is one of the big Jamf partners in APAC, and they've been working on a connector for Wand inside Jamf itself, for Jamf School. What that will then mean is that we can have Wand, EduSync, and Jamf together. So EduSync will populate all of ASM, and the connector here will then populate all of Jamf dynamically from your SIS with all of the data that it needs, all of the classes, all of the information that you possibly could need coming through from that SIS without you having to think about it. So we're very excited about that. There is a blog post on the Jamf website actually about this as well, and you can go now to the Jamf Marketplace and find Wand there as well. It's really exciting, I think, to see how these three products or these three companies together are going to be helping schools into the future. I'm really excited to be able to talk a little bit more about this. I have, as much to talk about again, if you'd like me to. But for now, I think I just wanted to give you that really quick overview, that quick introduction to who Wand is and what we're doing with EduSync and how Wand and EduSync together with Jamf can save time for teachers and students. So with that, I'm probably going to slow it down and then ask if there are any questions.
Thanks. It looks pretty cool. I'm curious. I just recently integrated and deployed Claris Connect to get from Blackbaud, my SIS, did the whole thing. It looks like there's a lot of overlap here.
There is some overlap, yes, between Claris Connect and what Wand does. I think the difference, though, is that Claris Connect is focused entirely on the Apple ecosystem, whereas Wand will allow you to expand beyond that as well. We have had a number of conversations with the Claris team around how we can work together with them as well. Realistically, you can absolutely use Wand alongside Claris Connect as well. So you can have Claris Connect, for example, still populating ASM in the same way, but then Wand can also help to be populating all of your class information into Jamf dynamically, for example.
Do you integrate with Blackbaud or OneRoster?
Yes, we do have integrations with Blackbaud. We are working on a OneRoster standard as well. OneRoster is we're a little bit more hesitant to do OneRoster as kind of our total solution because OneRoster is a fairly limited data set compared to what we want.
It doesn't do athletics and activities.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what we're missing.
Exactly.
So we have an in-house eager developer. I'm at a small school. We are, we can just build this, but maybe I should talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It'd be great to have a conversation.
Cool.
Hey, the data you are pushing between the source and the target system, are you storing it somewhere in between on your system, or you are just passing it through? And if you are storing this on your system, how far are you compliant with data protection laws like PDPA, GDPR?
Yeah, so we do store the data on our systems. We don't just pass it through. The reason that we store it is because if we were just passing it through, we could very quickly overload the SIS by querying it repeatedly in that context. We do store it. We do then restructure it and make it fit our particular API structure. Yes, we are fully compliant with data privacy laws like the GDPR. We make sure that that data remains encrypted at rest and in transit. We follow all of those standard practices there. We also make sure that the data remains geographically bound. So Australian data remains in Australian data centers. American data remains in American data centers.
This looks really cool. My question was, you had mentioned that the apps are ready to go. Does that, how do the accounts get in there? Do you know what I mean? I guess I'm a little confused about that.
So what we do there is that we'll populate that app with all of the student information. So that app will pull through those student details. Now, generally speaking, we would encourage the apps to have some sort of single sign-on solution in place. We do have one of our own, but we're not precious about it. What that means then is that if you do have single sign-on, for example, using your Microsoft accounts, the students are there, their accounts are matched, they've got their credentials, they can log in, they can work. The teachers don't have to worry about that at all. Does that kind of answer the question?
It does. Okay. Thank you very much.
Excellent. It looks like there are no more questions that I can see. We've reached that awkward 7 seconds, I think is the threshold. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been really a great honor to come and talk to you all here in Nashville. Wonderful city. And if you do have any questions, please come find me. I'll probably be up in the expo hall for a good portion of the rest of the day, and I'd love to chat further. Thank you.